Welcome to In Touch with Officer Dawn and Ray the DA. I am your host, Allison Beck, and today Officer Dawn and Ray the DA discussed heroin and how criminals have no fear of the court system. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time.
Stuff, and next thing you know, their body quits, and they're dead. It's called a heroin overdose. Now, your bunch out at WKYT, Brittany Paletz is her name, got on this the other day, and I told her, she talked to me about all of the heroin stuff, and then I told her the most interesting part of this that you ought to report that nobody seems to be talking about is this drug called Narcan. And she says, "What's that?" And I said, "It is an antidote. It reverses the effects of heroin." And the fire department, the paramedics that ride those fire department ambulances are equipped with this Narcan. And what happens is they save lots and lots and lots of lives. And I said, "Call them up, you ought to talk to them." And she did. And they said, in the report that Brittany did, they said that they inject Narcan 1 to 3 times a day in people to whose homes or wherever they're called. So, it's a big deal. Now,
one of the things about Narcan that they're talking about doing in some cities is actually putting that in the hands of the addicts that are most likely to OD.
well, of course, that's the problem.
Yeah, and family members are saying, well, since you have a family member that's a heroin addict, we're going to give you this Narcan in your house, basically break glass in case of an emergency, and then inject this in. What's the issue with that? Does that seem like that's enabling these addicts a little bit?
Some, yeah.
A false sense of security that they've got a solution if they OD? I mean, wouldn't you see that?
I do, and that's when I told Brittany about that, I thought, all really we're doing is advertising. Go ahead and OD, but
we got you covered. It's addiction.
Yeah, we got
theory. I know addiction's real, but how they handle it. Yeah, if someone's in jail for a couple of years and then they're going to be dried out just by virtue that they're away from it, and then they get out of jail and they go right back to it. That is where you reach a point with a person where what do you do with that situation, with that person, when it's very obvious that they're not going to get any better. That's why you do reach a point that at some point imprisonment seems to be the only answer. And
I told Lawson this, and and he didn't, as I would have expected, he didn't start whining about more people in prison. He said, good treatment programs are expensive.
Yeah.
And I said, well, all you have to do is create the program because you've got the audience, because they ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
And I said, so my solution is better than your solution at this point, because your solution is zip. And he's, of course, he and I go round and round. But let me tell you about the heroin thing. So far this year, there are 53 drug overdose deaths. 61% of those are heroin related. The next highest is cocaine, and they're 11%. Now, of the 53, 43 or 81% are guys, men. 92%, 49 of the 53 are white guys. So this is a white guy's deal. This drug overdose stuff. You think of the drug overdose stuff as young people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 14 out of 53 are in their 20s. 21 were in their 30s. 12 were in their 50s. And we had one guy that's 89 years old that overdosed. Now, his one was hydrocodone.
Okay.
Now, which means he probably just accidentally overdosed, would be my guess. Or
Well,
was fed up and wanted to check out. So, you know, that's that. The other thing I want to talk about is how you and I have been, I've been whining, you've just been sort of nodding your head about this. Sooner or later, this House Bill 463 was going to watch the crime rate go up and all that sort of business. And well, it's happening. And so what's happening is the high crime neighborhoods are getting all shook up because of the amount and nature of crime that's going on, the violent kind of stuff. Now the guys that write these laws, and the judges, and the governor, and the prosecutors, and all of that, and Bob Lawson, they don't live in high crime neighborhoods. Lawson lives in a good lily white crime free neighborhood and is not affected by crime. So let them out. Well, where do they go? They go back where they came from, and they go back to the high crime neighborhoods. And unfortunately, high crime neighborhoods are predominantly lower socioeconomic and predominantly minority. And as I tell Lawson, and I tell everybody that'll listen, look, those people are just as entitled to sit on their porch and feel safe as you do. But they don't. And as a result, they're getting upset. And so here we have this report, a call for action. It's harder and harder to take our kids to the park. We've got elderly people in our neighborhood, and they're afraid to come and sit on their porches. There's been so much violence, they say. Shootings this summer have caused fear and alarm. There have been far more calls for service to the police. And then somebody says, well, obviously, one of the elected guys on the council says, well, this recent spate of incidents really just raises the need for more programming. Let me tell you what needs to happen is the people that commit the crimes need to understand that there are consequences for committing crimes and put their butts in the slammer. That's what they need to understand, instead of our criminal-friendly laws that say terms like diversion, deferred prosecution, expected probation, parole after serving 15 or 20% of your sentence. Come on. That's the kind of thing. You know what? There was this great commercial out there called No Fear. You remember seeing that? No Fear. Well, of course, you're too young for that. But there's something called No Fear. Well, that's what the criminals feel about the court system. No fear. There is no expectation of punishment, and there you are. And, you know, and guess what? As they say, the chickens is coming home to roost. And this is House Bill 463, and those guys that wrote that thing could probably care less at this point, but it's going to jump up and snap them.
More criminal justice news and views at LexingtonProsecutor.com. You can also keep up with what's going on in our court system, like how many people are being probated versus put in prison for the crimes that they're convicted of. And you can actually break it down by judge, by the circuits, to take a look at that too. So if you're interested at all, check that out, LexingtonProsecutor.com. We'll see you next week on In Touch.